What is this? A show or something here? Welcome to the Robin Williams show. There's a nip of fall weather in the air. The World Series is coming this week. The Dodgers are nano nano. The Dodgers are heading to another country to play the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't care where we have to go, but it's going to be exciting this following week. Mary Williamson, formerly Mary Lou Retna, formerly Mary Ann Williamson, welcome to the secret society. Cocktail Slipper knows what's going on with the Dodgers for the repeat championship. I don't care who we play. I don't think anybody, and I don't mean this because I'm usually a negative type fan when it comes to Dodgers, although being a person who bleeds blue. I don't think 1927 Yankees could beat us at this point. So, good luck to the Blue Jays. If they beat the Dodgers, they have pulled off one of the greatest upsets in baseball history, going back to the 1919 Black Sox, which was fixed. So, not to put any illusions on them, but they do have a guy named George Springer on the Blue Jays, who was part of the cheating Astros, the equivalent of the 1919 White Sox. And he is their team leader. So the Dodgers are headhunting George Springer. Okay, we are here today. We're gathered here today to discuss how to like and subscribe to the channel. This is a seminar on simply liking and subscribing to a channel. Many of you are now leaving the room to get drugs and alcohol, various substances, but the show is not going to start until every one of you poor sons of bitches either likes and or subscribes and or likes to the following channel. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Somebody sent me a message in the comment section that I'm sipping the coffee too loud. So in honor of that spectrumy person, I'm going to sip this cup of delicious tribal coffee while we wait for people to subscribe and like. Boy, that's good. Okay. How's it going with the liking and subscribing? Is there any progress? And how do you like my backdrop today? I am going full Robin Williams with his mentor, Jonathan Winters, who will have his own episode. There's some Dodger memorabilia I threw up because it's World Series week. So we're combining the two events and seminar on Hollywood Lives. Howie, it's part of my life too. So it's a lot of these are firsthand stories that I've just known for a long time. So we figured everybody might like them. It's almost like Hollywood, and even Tarantino said this, and others, big name people have said that Hollywood ended around 2017, 2015. I think it was a little bit earlier than that, but most people seem to agree that we're into some other thing now. So I wanted to start this channel to actually celebrate, commemorate, and record stuff that happened in the 90s and the 70s and the 80s and even into the 2000s. Regarding Hollywood, because it seems like it's an entire different place now. Okay, are we done with the liking and subscribing? I'll give you another hour to pull this off. I'll have another sip of coffee, this time quietly. Okay, we do have I just want to thank a couple of people. Shelley Sheehan, Regina Lynn, BC Adamkowski, they've all donated to the History of Comedy Book Fund, and I really appreciate that. You could find the links in the description, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, whatever you choose. Thank you for stepping up. It helps because there's so many books on comedy. I had no idea getting into this thing that there are hundreds and hundreds of books. Some of them rare, some of them out of print, but I am trying to corner the market because every freaking time I find a footnote or an endnote or an anecdote citing another book that I don't have, I lose my fucking mind. And Dina, too loud sipping. Yeah, it's crazy, Dina. I don't know how we can even do a show. But are you in Korea? In Korea, it's even louder if you're picking up the audio in Korea. But yeah, I don't know how the show can even continue with the sipping. It's a one-man operation here, folks. So I'm trying to do everything at the same time, and every once in a while take a sip of coffee to keep going. I know this is not edited. This is a live show. We have no safety net. Thank you for joining as a member. Some of you people are used to pre-recorded, edited shows. That's not my thing. My thing is to do these live documentaries, and some people who come on for the first time don't realize it. It's a little rough, and I like it that way. And I don't mean sexually. I mean, I like it technologically rough because I come from a world that was before digital, that was analog. There is stuff that I've published and written that has still not been digitized in my life. There's tons of National Lampoon stuff that is not online and digitized. So half of my life is in the analog world, and the other half is in the digital world. So anyway, this is a celebration of the analog world. These vinyl albums that I have, the Popeye albums, the Robin Williams albums. I have a real good collection of comedy albums and books, but I need more books. So that's my addiction right now. Okay, let's get with our sponsor. We have to do our sponsor who's sponsoring the show. This person in Texas from Biltong, Anton Biltong, the king of all Biltong, who also sponsors other shows, but he seems to really enjoy this show. A little late on the meat delivery this week. He had a little twister down there, apparently, in Prairie, Texas. But here is one of the bags I'm going to have to break into after the show. And this is, wait a minute. This is one that is 2/3 gone already. This is the Angus, my favorite flavor. This is going to have to be replenished, which I think is coming today from Texas, my replenishment box. But you can have this too for the playoffs or the World Series. Why eat chips and pretzels until your stomach explodes like the planet Neuron? You can be eating pure gourmet protein. I'm just making this up, but it's actually true. You could be eating pure protein and not chips and popcorn and all that other stuff, which I'm not opposed to, except that I need to remain active and thin through these dark times. So this is the Wagyu one, which is a little bit more vinegary for people who like that flavor. It's really good, but the Angus is really the one I like, this one here. You could get it with the secret code, you get 10% off. Don't ask me how they do it, but you put in Mark G and you get 10% off on anything on the menu. And we'll get to some other things on the menu after the show or at the end of the show, because there are other products that we're going to mention. Okay. We've done Biltong. We're good for that. Anybody have any questions before we get started? Now would be a good time, or forever hold your peace until we get to the super chat round of the game show. Anybody want any questions or any statements? Now would be a good time. Okay. Let's start off with, wait a minute. Any questions? Any statements? Anybody? Okay. Be nice to each other in the chat and don't be political. This is a safe space. We're trying to do entertainment, art, movies, TV and stuff from the past here. This is not a format for other things. There are other channels to do that on. This is not one of them. So keep that in mind in the chat, you brats of the super chat brats in the chat, you rats, dead cats, and you aristocrats. Okay, so 1951. Well, let's start with his parents. Let's start with Robin Williams' parents before he's even born. Look at this couple right here. This guy looks like Spencer Tracy on the right. I mean, his mother was a model. His mother, which you see on the right here, this is his mother, Lori McLaurin. Now, Lori McLaurin, who actually was a model, came from Mississippi. Just want to talk about her for a second because she was the really extroverted, drinking, partying mother muse for Robin Williams. This is her years later, obviously. I think she wore a miniskirt to the day she died. She's one of those women. But getting back to her background, her great-grandfather, Lori's McLaurin's great-grandfather was Anselm McLaurin. You say, well, who is Anselm McLaurin? That sounds a little weird. That's her great-grandfather. He was the governor of Mississippi and also a Mississippi senator during his lifetime. That's her great grandfather. She comes from absolutely Southern royalty, the mom. Now, the mom, this is the mom a little later on. Yeah, possibly in the 70s there. The mom already had a marriage and already had a child from that marriage. So this is her second marriage. Now, if you go back to that photo of the couple, Robert is the father on the right. Now, Robert already had a marriage, and Robert had a child from that marriage. So Robin will have two half stepbrothers or half brothers. I don't know about stepbrothers, but two half brothers, one maternal and one paternal that he'll never know. In other words, they're being raised by other people and are not involved in this coupling. I could go into where they went, but it's a little convoluted. The two brothers went off with other family members, were told that their grandmother was their mother. You know, it's one of those things. But the guy on the right, the person on the right is Robert Williams, his father. And let me tell you about Robert Williams, because this is an interesting guy. And he comes from Evansville, Indiana. For people from Indiana, this Williams family goes back generations and generations, was involved in mining and all kinds of industrial stuff. This was a very, very wealthy clan. From Evansville, Indiana, they migrate to Chicago, which is where Robin is born in 1951, July 21st. But Robert Fitzgerald Williams, which is his full name over there, has an interesting past because he was a lieutenant commander in World War II on board the USS Ticonderoga. This is the Ticonderoga. It was had many different versions of the Ticonderoga, but this particular one, and Navy people will know this, there were multiple Ticonderogas, but this one here was in the Philippines in World War II in that field of battle. And at one point, it's hit by a kamikaze. Now, this is the actual photo of the kamikaze hitting the USS Ticonderoga off the coast of the Philippines in 1945. Excuse me, January 21st, 1941, I believe it was. And he is on board this ship as lieutenant commander, and he saves his captain, or who's ever running this ship, the captain's life, by throwing himself in front of a bomb that the kamikaze plane brought through into the inside of the aircraft carrier, which exploded. 100 sailors were either killed or wounded, including Robin's father. He took in a lot of shrapnel and was eventually sent back to D.C. and had given a desk job, was taken off the USS Ticonderoga, was repaired, sent back out. Other versions of it were in different battles, even in Vietnam. But yeah, this is an actual photo of the kamikaze attack by the Japanese against his dad's ship, which I thought was a fascinating photo. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because his father was super strict with him. His father was a Navy man. His father was a military man. His father comes back and meets his mother in D.C. and they get married, and they move they give birth to Robin in Chicago, but they move to Detroit, where he becomes. It's just, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that little baby picture. Look at that. There's little baby Robin. That must be 1951. Here's his mom holding baby Robin. He's an only child, but he's not an only child. He's an only child for them because their other children are gone. Now, I don't think that's his father, but that's Robin on the right being held up, probably at the age of 3. I don't think that's the dad. He looks a little young for that. There may be an uncle or something, but nevertheless, Robin is alone in this house. And there's a great photo of Robin Williams being alone. If you see that smirk on his face, this is a kid who, let me just back up for a second, because the father becomes a major vice president executive at the Ford Motor Company in Detroit. In 1963, at the age of 12, they'll move to the suburbs of Detroit, like Pontiac Hills. where they will live in a 40-room mansion with 20 acres of land. There's a large back to this thing. It's a lot bigger than you think. There was nobody around, and he had the entire attic to himself, Robin Williams. And in that attic, he lived a fantasy world. He was, of course, raised by Black nannies. We've seen this as a common theme with Andy Kaufman and others. The mother is a socialite. She goes to these events, charity events, all day. The father is on the road with the Ford Motor Company doing stuff in Detroit. Here's a picture of the family. You could see there must be Christmas, and Robin with his bow tie. This is a very buttoned down family. This is not a liberal Hollywood or liberal New York family. This is a conservative group of people. And the mother, as I said, is a socialite, does charity work, and the father's on the road. So Robin is always alone with these Black nannies, these African-American nannies, who are essentially raising him, as he admits later on. But upstairs in the attic, and the attic is not a normal attic, it's the entire floor of the house. And up in that attic, he's got tens of thousands of soldiers. And I say soldiers, I mean miniature, metallic, hand-painted soldiers for every type of war ever fought. Revolutionary War, Boer War, World War II, World War I, the Scottish War. They're all hand-painted in color, and Napoleon and Napoleonic Wars. And he's got sand up there. They bring in sand so he could land his troops on the beach in Normandy. Here's some of the World War II stuff from Robin's collection right there. This is a massive operation on the part of a 9-year-old kid who is alone in a fantasy world. And the first time he experiences comedy is watching like The Tonight Show with his dad or Ed Sullivan when Jonathan Winters is on. And he notices that Jonathan Winters, this is him. Look at that shot of Robin. That's great with his biplane there. This is a kid who lived in his head. And this will come into play later in this story. Robin became enamored with Jonathan Winters at the very young age, and had gotten a tape recorder, and he would put the microphone up to the TV and record Jonathan Winters and various other comedians and mimic them and learn and practice at the age of 11 and 12 and 13 the exact incantations, rhythms, and tones of not just comedians' voices, but celebrities' voices and politicians' voices, and becomes an impeccable mimic. And his whole dream and his whole desire is to make his mother laugh. Here's Jonathan Winters, of course. Jonathan Winters, we're going to do an episode on Winters. I don't want to give too much away. Very similar to Robin Williams. He will end up, I think, 2 times in a psychiatric institution. He will be on The Tonight Show. He will be on Ed Sullivan. He will sell some of the enormous volume of comedy albums, legendary stand-up comic and improviser. And that's the connection to Robin, is the improvisational aspects of Jonathan Winters, who, as I said, will have his own episode at some point. So Robin is up there playing with these toys, and the family moved a number of times. And the father takes early retirement. He gets into a fight with the Ford Motor Company over, there's a great photo. There's a great color photo of his dad and him in the backyard. That's really cool. Yeah, there's like a little golf cart or some kind of cart back there that Robin probably drove around that backyard. But I mean, this is a kid who didn't need anything more than he had. He had more than enough. And he was not a spoiled brat, and the parents were not that dysfunctional. The father, as I said, was super strict, made him call him sir, if that means anything to anybody there in the chat. He had to say sir to his father at all times. His father, highly reserved, highly introverted, like a lot of World War II guys. My dad was like that. A lot of those World War II veterans were very quiet and introverted. The mother, like I said, was absolutely the opposite, completely boisterous, laughing all the time, coming up with dirty limericks and jokes and everything for Robin. And his sense of humor comes from his mother. But his discipline to succeed, the reason I was telling you this story about this Navy man, comes from his father. And that gives him his ambition. The father takes an early retirement from the Ford Motor Company. They have a lot of money, obviously. And in 1967, think about 1967, it's the summer of love. Robin Williams and his family moved to San Francisco. Now, I mean, what are the odds of that? You're raised and born in the Midwest. You come from this button-down Midwest family of conservatives. And the next thing you know, you're 16 years of age and you're going to Redwood High School outside of San Francisco, which he referred to as a Gestalt high school. It was so open with lack of grades and discipline and everything else. But up until now, up until Redwood, these are earlier photos of him in private schools in Detroit. He went to Detroit Day School. This is all his preppy upbringing. Robin went to a bunch of private schools, all male schools. He was an overachiever, football team, number 72, president of the student class, wrestling team, track team. This is with his letters, with a letter on him. He was small and was being bullied. He weighed about 130 pounds. So he got into the wrestling team, figuring he could wrestle 130-pound people the same size as him and not get the shit beaten out of him every day coming home from school, which he was. He was bullied unmercifully because of his diminutive size. It wasn't an ethnic thing. It wasn't anything else other than he was small. And it's kind of interesting, but they, like I said, they move to California. This is probably a great representative photo of them, because even when they moved to California, it's still a moneyed household, Tiburon, and the surrounding area where they live is an extremely wealthy area. And look how he's dressed. I mean, this is Robin Williams at that time. 1967, he's 16 years of age, and he's voted least likely to succeed by his high school classmates at Redwood High School. Now, Redwood is far more liberal than where he came from these private prep schools. So he does succeed there quite well, despite what their prediction was. In 1969, he goes to Claremont Men's College, which is near me. It's a little bit outside of LA, in the suburbs here, a little bit north of LA. And that is a private men's college, basically focusing on political science. And he goes there and realizes that political science is not for him. Apparently what I sussed out was that his father wanted him to be in the State Department, wanted him to learn languages. He had an incredible knack for languages. And his father wanted him to be either an ambassador or somehow in the State Department dealing with languages. 1969, he goes to Claremont, and there's some debate as to him either leaving or getting kicked out for driving a golf cart right into the dining hall, intentionally or unintentionally. He claims that his father pulled him out because he was getting bad grades there, and indeed he was. I think he was getting all D's at Claremont. He didn't want any part of political science. And the one thing he did want a part of is at the College of Marin in Kentfield, California, which was it was a 2-year community college, but it had an incredible drama department. And that's where all the girls were, according to Robin. So he joins the College of Marin, Marin up in Marin County, obviously, up by where he lives, you know, if you know the geography here, and gets involved in the drama department. And that's where his head explodes. That's where he sees that this is his future, that he wants to be an actor. He also sees Dr. Strangelove, and he sees Peter Sellers. And that's what inspires him to become an actor, is Dr. Strangelove. Not the political aspects of the film as much as the multiple parts played by the legendary Peter Sellers in that movie that everyone knows so well. I don't have to go into Dr. Strangelove, but there are multiple shots here of Robin in the drama department, and he begins, yeah, he begins to get involved in plays, and he realizes this is his future. All he cares about is theater. And in 1973, he gets a full scholarship to Juilliard in New York, which is really, really impressive because Juilliard only allows in about 20 students a year. And he is brought in, is outside of Juilliard, New York, at Lincoln Center. He's brought into Juilliard with one other guy. There's about like 20 people come in, but the only guy he knows immediately is this guy on the right, and they become like brothers, blood brothers, friends, sewn together at the hip. And of course, that's Christopher Reeve, who will become Superman shortly after he gets out of school, and he works in a soap opera during the day. He actually gets a soap opera part, Christopher Reeves, but they become sewn together at the hip. And the two of them really advance quickly at Juilliard. Now, Robin is so eccentric that he's almost too eccentric for Juilliard. And that's one of the dirty little secrets of Juilliard, is that they try to, put you into an orderly position as an actor and really stomp out any eccentricities or creativity you may have, so you can be open to learning this method of acting that they want to teach you. Robin was not really having it there. I don't know if people know who John Houseman was. He worked with Orson Welles back in the days of radio theater. He put on plays on Broadway. He was starred in the movie The Paper Chase, and he ends up being in charge of actors at Juilliard. And he brings in Robin Williams and Christopher Reeve, and they move up the ranks. At one point, Robin has no money. The father doesn't want him to. Here's John Houseman, a younger John Houseman, Orson Welles era John Houseman. Father gives him $50. This is unbelievable. He's one of these kids where the father won't give him a nickel. So he never has any money. When he flies from San Francisco to New York, his dad gives him $50 and says, good luck. And luckily he's got a full scholarship, but that doesn't mean you got a place to live. Here's John Houseman again. Yeah. So he's like living in back of the stage at the school. He's living in a apartment with like 12 people. He starts to hang out with these theater people, and that becomes fun for him. And he really, begins to do stuff even like mime. In fact, he will hook up with another guy and do mime in whiteface outside the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That's a picture of Robin actually doing mime in 1974 to raise money. He was getting about, by his own estimation or his partner's estimation, about $75 a day doing a mime busker act on the street, which is incredible amount of money for somebody doing that. But as all things that will happen, he and Juilliard come to a parting of the ways, and it's kind of disputed as to whether he was kicked out or left. But apparently he was doing every kind of Shakespearean thing there, but he would riff in between and he would drive the teachers crazy. So the parting of the ways leads to Robin getting the hell out of New York, which was far too gritty, far too dirty, far too nutty for him, because he is thoroughly a West Coast hippie. I mean, he'd shown up with those suspenders, and he's shown up with Hawaiian shirts and painter's pants like you see there. And this is him getting back to Marin County, where he has a girlfriend and begins to do some improv. Now he joins a group, and they work at a place called the Holy City Zoo, which is a comedy club, art club in San Francisco. And it's the first time he begins to do stand-up. Now, the stand-up he's doing, this is 1976 in San Francisco. So this is exactly the time that he is part of that group. The group that he will later become part of is in LA called the Off the Wall Comedy Group. But he will become part of improvisational groups like the Committee, even though he wasn't in the Committee itself. He was part of multiple improvisational groups. Now, I was in one, I was in the National Improvisation Theater, not a big fan of improvisation. I don't believe it's really comedy. I think there's tricks involved. And it's not, to me, it's not the same thing. It's two different art forms. And that's why Robin Williams stands out so much in terms of comedy, because he's not a stand-up comic. He's an improvisational actor, looking and acting and sounding like a comic, but he is not a stand-up comedian like in the tradition of stand-up comedians. He doesn't have jokes. He's got a lot of attitude. He's got a lot of facial expressions. He's got a lot of voices, but he's not in the tradition of what David Letterman said when he first saw him at the Comedy Store. He just said, if this is the new comedy, I might as well go back to Indiana, because he can't do that. And he thought that they had arrived in a new era of comedy and that there were more Robin Williamses coming down the pike. There weren't, but there were a couple, and we'll get into that in a couple of seconds. But he goes as long as he can in San Francisco working these clubs, and they suggest to him that he goes to LA, which has a burgeoning comedy scene at that time. This is one of the, there's the Holy City Zoo in San Francisco. That's one of the places he worked. There weren't that many venues in San Francisco. So he comes down to LA in 1975 and 76, and he joins this group called the Off the Wall Comedy Group in West Hollywood. And again, it's improvisational theater, which I know this sounds like it's in the weeds, but it's a big deal for this particular story. And he starts to live in West Hollywood. He actually moves in with Elaine Boozler. And Elaine Boozler is a waitress at the Comedy Store. She will become a gigantic comedy star by herself. But oddly enough, Elaine Boozler is the crossroads for all these different comics. She has flings with Jay Leno and Letterman, but she has full-blown relationships with Andy Kaufman and Robin Williams, which is almost impossible for me to imagine. But she had relationships with two of the most introverted, hard to understand comics in American history. And then Elaine Boozler becomes Elaine Boozler. But that's a story for another day. We'll do an episode on Elaine Boozler at some point. Now, Robin has a parrot named Truman Capote that only says one thing, and that's parrots can't talk. So everybody who comes to his place who tries to talk to the parrot simply says, parrots can't talk. Parrots can't talk, which I thought was pretty funny. 1977, he gets into his first little film, which was a minor part in a comedy ensemble called Can I Do It Till I Need Glasses? He's got a minor role in this low budget comedy, kind of meaningless. But now this is where the trouble starts. I don't know how to explain this, but Robin Williams has a reputation for stealing people's jokes. And this will become a problem at the Comedy Store. Robin Williams, unlike the others, auditions and destroys the place, and Mitzi puts him on salary for $200 a week, which is unheard of. There's a lot of jealousy, I understand that, and he's obviously insanely talented. He goes in late at night, he's gacked out of his mind, he destroys and melts these clubs, with comedy, and there's the Comedy Store. He's put on salary. Now, I don't think anybody else was put on salary. I'd have to find out from others if anybody at this time was put on salary. But I mean, Sam Kinison was made the doorman for a year. He couldn't even get in. But Robin is put on salary, and that means people in the industry are going to come and see him, and they will, and they do, and things will happen to him. But as he's working the Comedy Store and other venues, he begins to borrow, steal, or somehow take other comics' jokes. And there's a picture of him in the Comedy Store. Wow, that's really appropriate at that time. he will borrow or absorb. There's a controversy as to how he gets these jokes. He denies that he's stealing them. He's saying, I just have absorbed them. Richard Lewis, these are personal stories, told me he told Robin Williams not to come to his shows anymore. I know what your problem is, Robin, and I don't want to be a part of it. Richard was as dignified as you could possibly be. David Brenner will grab him by the throat and throw him up against the wall at the Comedy Store for stealing David Brenner's jokes. This is not folklore, my friends. This is actually part of Robin Williams's history. Multiple comics will complain about him. They will walk off the stage when he walks in. They don't want to expose their material to Robin Williams. Robin Williams managers will later walk around with checkbooks and write out checks for any jokes to any comics who complain to them. Robin Williams will claim that he is somehow unconsciously taking these jokes. He will take the entire act of my friend Charles Fleischer, who will later become Who Framed Roger Rabbit. If you want to see an episode of, you want to really freak out, here's Fleischer and unbelievable comic talent, Charles Fleischer. This is 1989 with Robin Williams both giving an award for the animator who did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, of which Charlie Fleischer will be the voice of. There's a show that Charlie Fleischer did. It's on YouTube at the theater in Chicago. Take a look at that show on YouTube with Charlie Fleischer, and you will be stunned as to how similar it is to Robin Williams' act. Charlie Fleischer used to close every show that he did with the phrase, reality, what a concept. Robin Williams will steal that phrase and his act and actually name his album Reality, What a Concept, his first album, which will win a Grammy Award, with a phrase that literally the catchphrase of Charlie Fleischer. Charlie Fleischer, of course, was on Welcome Back, Kotter as a regular character, in very, very similar styles, very similar career tracks, very similar backgrounds, although Fleischer being Jewish, coming from Long Island, and Robin coming from Chicago and obviously a WASP. But the mimicry, the voices, the accents, the body language goes so far as Charlie was one of the greatest harmonica players, still is one of the greatest harmonica players I've ever heard in my life. He did a whole show of just invented instruments that he made himself. Robin, and then he would do this harmonica blues thing and then talk in a black voice afterwards, making jokes as a black blues guy. Robin did the same thing without a harmonica, just making harmonica sounds like Charlie Fleischer. I mean, it's really outrageous. It really is outrageous. And Charlie Fleischer seems to be at peace with it. You know, he's so lovable, Robin Williams, that a lot of these guys simply say, I know he took this from me and we're still friends, you know, and blah, blah, blah. The last month of his life, Robin Williams will go up to Dana Carvey and apologizing for stealing stuff from Dana Carvey, and Carvey will deny it, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's clearly an issue. Like I said, the management will run around giving checks to everyone. And I say this because he's not a comic. He's an improvisational actor without material and without jokes. And it's an amazing performance, an amazing amount of attitude. But if you ever saw a transcript on paper of a Robin Williams show, there's no there. If you take away the facial expression, and this is a lot to take away, understandable, but it's not a traditional act in the sense of comedy writing like Richard Lewis would be, or Seinfeld would be, or every other comic would be. This is a guy who goes up and improvises on stage, and he's so fine-tuned the act of improvisation that he can take off at lightning speed. And this is from years and years of doing improv and honing that act, and now going up. And occasionally he would bring up other people. He would bring up Charlie Fleischer. He would bring up Billy Crystal. He would bring other Richard Pryor. We're going to get to this in a second because that's where we're going next. It's here's how it ends with Robin Williams regarding the jokes. He would stand outside a comedy club, and he said this publicly. He will not go in a club because of his reputation of stealing jokes. To avoid trouble, Robin Williams, when he is slated to go on at the Comedy Store or the Improv, will remain outside in the street. This goes on for years to offset anybody's contention that he's stealing their material. But this is after years of stealing material. This is how bad it got. He wouldn't even stay in the dressing room or the kitchen because he could hear it. He came up with this, and he abided by it, to stand outside before he actually came on the stage. That's how far it gets. That being said, he's seen by George Schlatter. Now, George Schlatter in 1977 has already had Laugh-In, the original Laugh-In, which Charlie Fleischer was on, by the way. He wants to reboot Laugh-In, and he creates the Great American Laugh-Off, which is a revival of Laugh-In in 1977. And he selects Robin Williams to be part of it. Now, which is kind of interesting because George Schlatter does not own Laugh-In, and he will be sued. Well, this is coming next, but just a side note, he will be sued by Rowan and Martin for stealing Laugh-In. They owned the format. I didn't know this. He would be sued and have to pay out $4.6 million to Dan Rowan and Dick Martin in 1980 for stealing this thing in 1977. Now, Robin is friends with Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor gets his show. Yeah, wow, look at that. There's the original, folks. There's Goldie Hawn. Richard Pryor will get a show on NBC. It's not going to last long, but this is him and Robin Williams doing a reenactment of To Kill a Mockingbird, by the way. Richard Pryor brings everyone from the Comedy Store as part of his cast on the Richard Pryor show in 1977 on NBC. It will, I think, run like for 6 weeks or 5 weeks or something before it's pulled. It was just impossible for them to pull this off. So, but Robin gets his first, after this thing with George Schlatter, this is his first sketch comedy show in 1977 with his idol, Richard Pryor, who he really worshipped. And I mean worshipped, and rightfully so. I mean, Pryor is completely untrained. He's doing stuff, original sketches, completely coming out of his mind. At one point, just coming out of the kitchen. And Richard Pryor, of course, will have his own episode. One point, coming out of the kitchen of the Comedy Store as God, looking for his son, Jesus, and finds out that they have killed him just off the top of his head, and then leaves. And he said, I could destroy you at this time, but I'm going to leave you with love, and just walks out the door. Season 5 episode of Happy Days, in season 5. Happy Days is running out of ideas. Gary Marshall is running out of ideas. So he talks to his 6-year-old son, who had just seen Star Wars. There's Gary Marshall, Penny Marshall's brother. Gary Marshall will talk to his 6-year-old son and say, what do I do with this show? And what does the show need, son? And the kid, who's 6, says, you need a spaceman. You need a outer space character. And he says, this is set in the 1950s. He says, how can I do that? So the kid says to Gary Marshall, make it a dream sequence. Gary Marshall goes back to the writers, and they come up with this episode, My Favorite Orkin. Now, let me back up, because they don't have a Orkin yet. And they start auditioning everyone in Hollywood to be Mork. There is no Mork. And everyone comes to this thing because they don't even know what they're looking for. So this is really funny. Richard Lewis comes out the door of an audition as Robin Williams is coming in. Of course, they know each other. And Robin Williams says to Richard Lewis, how does it go? How did it go? And Richard Lewis went, it was fucking terrible. They wanted me to speak Norwegian or something. I hope you speak Norwegian. And he walks off in Richard Lewis style. And what he meant was they wanted the character to come up with fictional outer space voices, and Richard Lewis couldn't do that, but Robin could. Robin comes in and they tell him to just take a seat on the couch. So he takes a seat on the couch, upside down, standing on his head. And then he drinks a drink out of a glass with his finger. Now, obviously, it didn't go through his finger, but this will later be used in the episodes where the juice will dissipate with his finger in it. But this is in the audition, folks. This is in the audition, and they realize that they have their Mork, and that's February 1978. What you're seeing here is from that episode where Mork shows up to kidnap Opie here, Mr. Cunningham, and take him back to the planet Orc for examination. And that's why Cunningham is talking to him about the situation. So that makes the ratings go through the roof, and that leads to the network asking for an idea from Gary Marshall, who says, why don't we spin it off into Mork and Mindy? There's no Mindy. Mindy is told that Pam Dauber is told that she will be Mindy in the newspaper. She doesn't even know anything about it. And she becomes a sidekick. They set it in Boulder, Colorado. And the show goes off the charts in terms of celebrity and fame and ratings and money. And speaking of money, Paramount signs Robin to a 5-year deal for $3 million. And Maura, the agent or the manager, calls him up and says, they want you on the show on a regular basis. He's never gotten a regular check. And he tells him it's $1,500 a week. And Robin just jumps for joy on the phone saying, it's $1,500 a week. This is the greatest news of my life. And Maura says, schmuck, I was only kidding you. It's $15,000 a week. There's just dead silence on the other end of the phone. He will be Jonathan Williams' dad, I think, in the 4th season. But 1978 to 1982, they put it up against Norman Lear's product, Archie's Place, and the network screws around with it and destroys their own product. Robin is coming in from nightclubs, hungover, completely disappears at times. He's going after each episode. He's going out to perform in nightclubs, in the Comedy Store, in the Improv, and these other places in LA. And he's staying out all night, womanizing, doing tons of blow, and I mean tons of blow. And coming right to the set, shredded. And, many times he, has not slept at all. I think this is a later cast, when they started to monkey around with it. I want to say like June 4th, 1978, he marries a girl, Valerie Velarde. Now, Valerie Velarde was a waitress, a cocktail waitress. She was also a dancer. She was trying to get her master's degree in dance. She wanted to be a dance instructor. He marries her. She's originally from back east. Father was a big contractor from Connecticut, I think. They go to this marriage is in like a country club in Wilton, Connecticut. Despite the background there she is. Yeah. That's their marriage will last, I think, a long time till 88, I think about 10, 11 years. And his first child, Zach, will come out of that marriage. Zach will be born in 1983. 1979, he plays the Copacabana in New York and records Reality, What a Concept. Reality, What a Concept is a great title, as I said. I mean, Charlie Fleischer must have shit his pants. I don't know. I've never heard from Charlie about that. I've met him a number of times, had dinner with him, been to some functions with him, but I've never asked him about the Robin Williams thing. But he is on record talking about it, so it's not completely unusual. 1980, Robin Williams gets really his first movie, and that's with an incredible director named Robert Altman. And this movie is called Popeye. And he plays Popeye as if Popeye has one eye, hence the name Popeye. And the studio is not happy about it. He's got a corncob pipe in his mouth, And nobody to this day can understand a word that he's saying in this movie, which is a musical. And I think they were filming it like in Crete or something, or Madagascar. The whole movie runs out of money. And one point, don't forget, there is Shelley Duvall as Olive Oil. And those are prosthetic arms that he's wearing. He said it cut off circulation to his hands at times, and he would almost pass out from the lack of blood flow during the shooting of Popeye, which takes a long time. And then the studio just has a heart attack because nobody can understand a word the hell that he's saying in this movie. And they're actually singing songs in this. People may want to go back and take a look at this movie because a lot of kids liked it. Adults didn't understand it, but kids loved Popeye, and I'm one of them. I was too old for this, but if I was a kid back then, I would have loved it. 1982. This is considered a flop, by the way, critically. 1982 does The World According to Garp. Now, The World According to Garp is based on a crazy novel by a guy named John Irving, who will later come out as bisexual. It's got John Lithgow, who will play a football player, transvestite. It's got the first performance of Glenn Close, I believe. Oddly enough, John Lithgow will end up being an alien from another planet many years later in Third Rock from the Sun, not unlike Mork Mindy. Very interesting. But The World According to Garp is a very, very strange movie. It shows Robin Williams growing up from a little kid, different actors, to an adult. And his mother's a nurse who doesn't have a husband, but gets impregnated by a GI in World War II who's in a coma, laying in his bed with a never-ending erection. So she hops on that intentionally to get impregnated and becomes a feminist leader. Don't ask me. It's absolutely an insane movie. I never liked it, but Robin Williams gets on the radar of acting because this is it was such a heralded book, and John Irving will later go on to even greater fame as a novelist. But I don't know. To each their own with The World According to Garp. Now, in 1982, something happens. Now, he's still partying. Keep in mind, the cocaine stuff is going off the rails, and I mean off the rails both ways, all kinds of rails. And he is starting to party with John Belushi and Robert De Niro. And the three of them are in Hollywood a lot, although Belushi's got SNL going on. That's Robert De Niro on the right, the legendary John Belushi in the middle, who will have his own show very shortly. Belushi there practicing on his Blues Brothers routine, where I was present for the inception of that, which took a number of weeks at the Lone Star Cafe, downtown New York, when it was being created by him and Aykroyd. They would come to the Lone Star after SNL and try it out. This took a long time for them to perfect the act, but that's a story for another day about how the Blues Brothers was created. Belushi was working on a film, and he was at the Chateau Marmont here on Sunset. Had his own bungalow, as people will, and neighboring bungalow was Robert De Niro, and Robin went over there, and he was looking for De Niro, and De Niro was occupied with two women at the time, according to sources. And he wouldn't let Robin in, and Robin went into the bungalow of John Belushi, and it's another triptych of the three of them. It's kind of interesting because they weren't all together at the same time that night. But De Niro was doing drugs with Belushi before that, retreated to his room. Robin shows up. Belushi's in there with Kathy Evelyn Smith. Kathy Evelyn Smith is helping John Belushi by injecting him with speedballs. This is a picture of Kathy Evelyn Smith. Now, Kathy Evelyn Smith is an interesting case because she is, as I said, she is injecting him because he didn't want to inject himself, Belushi, and he didn't want anyone to know that he was mainlining. This was When I say speedballs, I mean cocaine and heroin together in a syringe, for people at home who may not be aware of what that is. So Kathy Evelyn Smith, this is very interesting. Bellucci dies that night. Supposedly, Robin Williams left moments before he died, and that's debatable. We'll never know. He goes to the job again. He goes to his job, which is Mork and Mindy, and Pam Dauber is given the assignment of telling Robin Williams that Bellucci is dead. He doesn't know this. He completely melts down. She tells him as softly as she can, and he starts saying, "I was just with him." And here's the headlines: L.A. Herald, John Bellucci tragic finale. This will end up with Thomas Noguchi doing yet another celebrity autopsy. This one of the 33-year-old actor, comedian, and close friend of Robin Williams. Now, that being said, she will be. This is Kathy Williams. Kathy Evelyn Smith will be indicted for murder. If there's a celebrity that dies, this is a constant American theme. When a big celebrity dies from a drug overdose, the police are put under pressure to find the person who either sold them the drugs, gave them the drugs, got high with them. I never really saw the logic behind that, because Bellucci was able to, it's almost like a musical Chairs. Bellucci was doing so much drugs and there were so many different dealers in his life. Whoever was the last man or woman holding the bag, in this case, it was Kathy Evelyn Smith. Now, Kathy Evelyn Smith has been smeared in the press as this, junkie drug dealer, but she was not. She was a backup singer for the band with Levon Helm and Robbie Robertson. She was a backup singer for Gordon Lightfoot. She worked in the recording industry. She had a career. She was quite renowned. Everybody knew her. Whether she had a drug habit or not is a side issue. She would not be alone. Because she was a woman, they went after her. And because of one thing that I'm going to tell you. She sold her story because she didn't have any money for a lawyer. She sold her story to the National Enquirer, and they put a headline on it which had nothing to do with her. And the headline was, "I killed John Bellucci." So because of that headline, the LAPD was forced to do something because it was looked at as like a confession in print. But it really wasn't. It was just a salacious headline put on by the National Enquirer to a story of a woman who sold her story to them about that night. That being said, she gets indicted. How does she get indicted? Well, let's take a look. They put together a secret grand jury, and they take a guy who was there that night and they flip him. And that guy was Robin Williams. And Robin Williams comes in to talk to the grand jury, and he is accompanied by lawyers because he is now the star of Mork and Mindy. And they just kept saying Robin Williams is here on his own volition. And Robin Williams privately was targeted privately and made to flip and turn against her, which he did before the secret grand jury, which handed down an indictment against Kathy Evelyn Smith. She will eventually do, I think, 18 months in prison, and then move back to Canada. She will get out, and I think she died in 2020 at the age of 72 or something. But a real salacious situation for everyone all the way around. Now, at the same time, there is a woman, a waitress from the Comedy Store, Michelle Tish Carter, who is suing Robin Williams for herpes. He had so many different women that this Carter woman says she's pregnant and she's not. Then she tries to shake him down for money. He doesn't buckle. She then sues him for $6.2 million, and it literally goes to court before they settled in 1986 at a court for some undisclosed amount of money. But this also tarnishes him. His reputation is kind of getting shredded in Hollywood at this time because of these scandals. And Bellucci, and in 1984, he hires a nanny Zach is born in 1983. 1984, he hires a nanny, Marcia Garces, who's half Finnish and half Filipino, who even though she's at the age of 28, she's already had 2 marriages herself. I don't know who that is on the right there. That's some shaved-headed person. But Marcia gets hired as the nanny for Zach, and that's the Valerie child between the two of them. 1984, he does Moscow on the Hudson, and in Moscow on the Hudson, he actually gets good reviews. Moscow on the Hudson, he gets good critical reviews on that one, and that's kind of the first time he really. I mean, he gets it with Garp, but Garp is an ensemble thing. Moscow, he's got a big part in. 1985, he hooks up with Robin Williams. Robin Williams hooks up with Billy Crystal to do comic relief. This had already been done in Europe, so they took the idea over here, and HBO puts it on. They make them drag in Whoopi Goldberg, who really can't compete with them at the level of spritzing that Williams and Billy Crystal are doing. Billy Crystal and Williams become very close friends. They become really close friends because their careers and styles are very similar. Keep in mind, Billy Crystal also went to drama school. Billy Crystal also wanted to be an actor. Billy Crystal also had the same career arc as Robin, and they really bond, and especially with comic relief. And comic relief raises $50 million for medical aid for the homeless, and then it becomes a regular thing for HBO for a while. So that really starts to help his. There's the poster. Who remembers comic relief out there? They dropped again. That's funny, Dustin. 1987, his father dies. He goes into therapy, but he comes out of therapy to do Good Morning Vietnam. Now, this is the story of Adrian Cronauer, who actually was a radio DJ. This is a shot from Good Morning of him playing Cronauer, which it says on his shirt there. And this is in Saigon. It's a true story based on this guy's DJ thing. After the movie comes out, Cronauer is apoplectic because he said, I never did any of these things, and it's completely over the top. And he denounces, he says, great performance, but it's just not me. There's the poster for Good Morning Vietnam. Now, this makes a lot of money, and he gets nominated. This is Barry Levinson, of course, Wag the Dog, Diner, a million other of your favorite films. And this thing will make a lot of money and put Robin on the map. They don't care about The World According to Garp and these other things and your performances. They care about stuff making money. And this thing is making money hand over fist. But he's also partying his ass off. And this is a big hit for him. And it's a funny movie. It really is incredibly funny. And there's some pathos in it. There's drama in it. There's some military stuff in there. If you haven't looked at Good Morning Vietnam in a long time, you might want to take a look at it. So the relationship with Valerie is beginning to collapse in 1988. Both of them are having extramarital affairs, numerous extramarital affairs. Valerie is not part of Robin's inner circle of partying because she doesn't have desire to do that much coke. And in 1988, they get a divorce. The divorce settlement at that time, if I remember correctly, he gave her $500,000 in cash and $50,000 a month for the rest of her life. Boy, he was a hairy guy. So she disappears from the scene, happy with the money. There's really not even any bad blood. She's got her son. He's still going around doing everything. And he, gets an Oscar nomination for Good Morning Vietnam in the next year when it comes out. So he's starting, his career is really getting crazy. In 1988, same year, he does Lincoln Center. He does the Beckett play, Waiting for Godot with Steve Martin. And this thing is insane. He's riffing off of Beckett's play, just doing insane bits. This is at Lincoln Center, so it's considered off Broadway, by the way, and wins nothing. They get boxed out. Him and Steve Martin do this play. It runs for a very short amount of time. It's critically crushed. And yeah, this is him leaving the theater, actually. That must be like on 66th Street. He's leaving. Here they are. Nobody knew what to make of this. They bought tickets thinking it was going to be these two guys doing stand-up, but it's both of them not just doing Waiting for Godot, but bastardizing the play by Beckett and just riffing off of it. People were apoplectic over this because Beckett was such a stickler in a Mamet-like way for his words, and these two guys apparently didn't give a shit. But his next movie, I think, will redeem that. He's like a hit or miss guy, and I mean literally film after film after art piece after art piece. One thing is super successful, the next thing just is a complete disaster. But the next one, in 1989, he gets Oscar nomination again for an obscure film with Peter Weir, the famous Australian director, called The Dead Poets Society. It's set in the 1950s at a private school. This is your teacher. Robin Williams plays the poetry teacher in this private school, which is not unlike one of the many private schools that Robin went to. And there's a young up-and-coming actor in this, and I think he might be in that background photo, named Ethan Hawke. There's another actor who will self-delete. There's a lot of self-deletion in Robin Williams films. You may want to see how many times that happens. But Dead Poet Society, although it doesn't make a ton of money, is critically acclaimed. And this leads him into, whatever happens next, like Cadillac Man or something. But after Cadillac Man, he does Awakenings, where he becomes this medical doctor again, named Oliver Sacks. Now, this is De Niro on the left. De Niro will play the patient. Robin Williams will play Oliver Sacks. But they're smart enough now, especially after Patch Adams. Patch Adams, which is also will happen in years later, 1998. He will play another doctor who goes berserk, saying that's not me. So in this movie, they decide to just change the name of Oliver Sacks to whatever the name Robin Williams plays as Oliver Sacks, the famous doctor. There's Patch Adams. Yeah, he's playing a doc. He must play a doctor in 8 movies, I think. But this is the clown doctor one where he plays a Tom Shadid film. Yeah. The one in 1990, Awakenings, will be critically acclaimed and will make a good amount of money. And this is also a step along the road to finally getting an Oscar at some point. There's De Niro Williams. He was afraid. Now, this is directed by Penny Marshall. Am I ready? Is that Penny Marshall? I think so, right? Nominated for 3 Academy Awards. She had a secret signal that she would give to Robin Williams when he started riffing. And a lot of directors couldn't control him. And she would grab her crotch with her hand and grab her balls. And that was her signal to Robin to knock off the riffing. Apparently, this was very effective. The last thing that she wanted to see was an upset Robert De Niro, who was in a coma, coming out of his coma. But nevertheless, this movie gets nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards, which leads him into the 1991. Oh, he does Hook. I forgot about Hook. Hook is kind of a 3-year project for Spielberg. And there's Penny. Yeah, it's Gary Marshall's sister. Penny will become the director of as all kinds of different films. I think she will do big with Tom Hanks, if I remember correctly, which will be the model for a film 10 years later called Jack, which is the exact same film. But there's De Niro with Robin Williams going to the Oscars, I presume, wearing those monkey suits. He will do Hook. Here's a picture of Hook with Julia Roberts, Bob Hoskins, Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman. This is a crazy film. The critics did not like this, although it did make a lot of money. Took years to make. I think Spielberg gave up on it at one point, and yeah, got back in. It took a long time to shoot, and it's an adult Peter Pan movie. Critics did not like this movie, and I don't know how many. You ever get a chance to great Red Pill Pastor Rollo Tomasi? Yeah, if he's still alive, the great Rollo Tomasi, his great line is, "When you get red pill, rewind, you'll see actually a nightmare." Yeah, that's. I'm not a fan of Doubtfire either, but thanks for the donation, by the way. Hook kind of disappears, and in 1991, he does a film called The Fisher King. Now, The Fisher King is directed by a complete psychopath who I love, named Terry Gilliam. And Gilliam, of course, from Monty Python, is the only American member of Monty Python. He will do Brazil. This is a still from Radio Man, from The Fisher King, with Jeff Bridges on the right, who plays like a Howard Stern kind of shock jock, who upsets some listener who kills people. And he's an alcoholic, Bridges, and he's having hallucinations, and he's being beaten up by some thugs on the West Side Highway or by the docks or something, and he's saved by Robin Williams and his homeless contingent. Robin Williams, who is completely delusional because his wife had died, and that storyline, The Fisher King, is difficult. It does not age well. Let me put it that way. There is also the controversy of this guy that we're going to show a picture of. Now, this guy is a very famous street person in New York, and people not familiar with New York. This is a guy who looks exactly like Robin Williams. This is not Robin Williams. This is Radio Man. Radio Man is a homeless man who comes around film sets in New York. I was a former location manager on films in New York. I had to deal with Radio Man. He's a very sweet guy, and all he wants to do is get some autographs and eat from the craft service table. And he pushes his cart around, and everyone who's in film in New York knows Radio Man. Well, a lot of people believe that Robin Williams' character from The Fisher King is him usurping Radio Man. I'm not here to dispute it. The similarities between his character and Radio Man are enormous. Radio Man actually has a cameo at the very end, I think, if I remember correctly. He's got a walk by in the credits of The Fisher King. Maybe I'm imagining that, but he is in other films having cameos later on when people got hip to Radio Man. But Radio Man, there's even a documentary now, I think, about Radio Man. But back in the day, in the 90s, when I was working in New York on locations as a location manager, Radio Man was everywhere. Anywhere there was a film, Radio Man would show up. So he had to have encountered Radio Man, and there's photos of Robin with Radio Man. Radio Man had a ghetto blaster radio that he would take around with him to play music. I don't know what to say. I've always thought that he took the act of Radio Man, which wasn't an act. I mean, he was a homeless guy, and put that into his character as a homeless guy in New York. Now, is that a crime? No, of course not. But it goes hand in hand with him either subconsciously, unconsciously usurping jokes, taking caricatures, taking names. This goes through Robin Williams' entire career. He's dyslexic. He doesn't write any material. He doesn't know how to write. This is by his own admission. This is not me talking out of school. So he has to get material either visually or auditorially or literally from somewhere. And he believes that he could take it from anywhere on the earth, and he does. And, you know, he massages it and it comes out Williams-esque, but I don't know if that's a shot. Is that Radio Man there? Yeah, that might be a shot of the two of them. Fascinating. Wow, that's a rare photo. Wow. Okay, so he's got these kids, right? He marries. I want to get back to the wife leaves, and he marries the nanny. The nanny, Marcia. Now, they claim that their affair started when they got separated. This is Marcia on the left, Marcia Garces. She's half Filipino, half Finnish, whatever that means. It must be an ethnic joke in there somewhere. They claim that their affair started after they separated. Who gives a shit? I'm not going to dispute it or agree with it or anything else. The point is, she was the nanny for the kid, Zach, and she ends up being his wife. You can make whatever you want out of that. The dates and the deadlines and what overlaps is never going to be resolved. But she's not just the nanny. She gives him two children. Now, you've already got Zach. Now, in 1989, Zelda appears. 1991, Cody appears. Okay. Now, she takes over. She marries him in 1989, April 30th, 1989. And she not only marries him, they put together a production company and she makes herself the head of the company. So now she will get scripts sent to her, cock blocking him artistically. He agrees to this. So, I mean, it is what it is. His own managers can't get to him. His own agents can't get to him. They now have to go through the nanny. And the nanny is not liked because the nanny is now Mrs. Williams, who is sitting on scripts and working on them with the writers for up to a year at a time before Robin Williams is even conscious of their existence. Think about what I just said. She works, and it works for this case. She works on a script, which is a remake of from a novel, and she works on this Mrs. Doubtfire thing for a year, and then it becomes a huge hit. So, you know, she thinks that this is a system that could work. You know, it doesn't work for a couple of films after this, but nevertheless, it does work for this. So this movie is Mrs. Doubtfire, which makes a lot of money. I mean, Mrs. Doubtfire may be the biggest grosser, just as a starring film, makes $602 million. I mean, Aladdin will make 593, but that's animated. Night at the Museum, 422, but that's ensemble. Good Morning Vietnam pulls in about 340 million. These are domestic theatrical runs. And then Happy Feet will do 340. But Mrs. Doubtfire, they were waiting to do a Mrs. Doubtfire 2 until the day he died. Yeah, so she takes over this company and begins to control the flow of scripts to Robin Williams, putting herself in there. This will not go well for every single movie. There was one I was thinking of. Doubtfire is 93. There was something that came out in 94. There was a bomb that I can't remember now. Anyway, we'll get back to that. The movie I wanted to talk about was Aladdin, the animated film, because he does 52 different voices in Aladdin. And I want to tell you an inside story. What he didn't want any part of this. No celebrity had ever done animated films before, major celebrity. Now they all do them. This was the beginning of it, where they actually marketed animated films. Disney had moved away from animation for a number of years. They were making a big move back into animation with Aladdin. And the writers of the film, the animated film, to get Robin Williams on board, created a teaser with the genie using Robin Williams recordings of his actual act and synced it up with a number of minutes long teaser of the genie speaking as Robin Williams, including his bit that he did as a schizophrenic arguing with himself. They made the genie split into two heads, talking to each other, the two heads. And they went to Robin Williams's place and showed him this, and he flipped out and came on board immediately. That was what convinced Robin Williams to do Aladdin. Now, Aladdin will do $600 million in business, and they will also attempt to market Robin Williams as a character, to market as a toy and his voice, and he flips out because they had an agreement, as he does with every film, that he's not going to sell product. And Jeffrey Katzenberg decides to say, fuck it, and markets Robin Williams's voice and likeness to promote Aladdin. Now, Robin Williams is paid just $75,000 in 1992 for Aladdin. I mean, and he does 52 different voices, for Christ's sakes. I mean, they really ripped the guy off. So Michael Eisner takes over Disney, and he sends Robin Williams a painting as a gift to assuage this feud that they're having. And the feud, he sends him a Picasso, which is worth $1 million at that point, and it still doesn't work until Joe Roth comes in as the head of Disney and issues a public apology. Joe Roth shows up, and Robin Williams decides to do Toys, again with Barry Levinson, and it's a complete bomb. 1992, but it's the debut of Jamie Foxx, which is kind of interesting. Now, in 1996, he does The Birdcage, which is a remake of the French La Cage aux Folles, with Gene Hackman and Nathan Lane, directed by Mike Nichols, and it's a huge hit. That's another critically acclaimed film for Robin. He does, I want to say, Jack in 1996. Again, one hit and then one bomb after another, which is a complete remake of Big with Tom Hanks. I think it was directed by Penny Marshall in 1988. So this is like 8 years later. It's an old man in a boy's body. Sounds familiar. Here's Jack. Oddly enough, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, which is why Robin Williams does it. And it's a complete disaster. Complete fucking disaster. Now, Robin Williams will hook up with his best friend, Billy Crystal, to do a movie called Father's Day. Father's Day is directed by Ivan Reitman. This movie is also another bomb. But he enjoys working with Billy Crystal, so what does he care? And Natasha Kinski has a small part in this. This is him and Robin together. Maybe we might have some stills from that movie too. But yeah, him and Robin have a great time. It's one of these movies where you could see these two guys. Just to give you the plot, Natasha Kinski is missing her teenage son, so she contacts two ex-lovers of hers and says they're both the father of this kid, and she needs their help in finding her kid, even though she has another guy who's the father of the kid. So both of these guys are running around California looking for their son, who's not their son. It's a funny premise, not handled very well by Ivan Reitman, who will do other movies, be involved with Caddyshack and Meatballs and other stuff, Reitman, especially with National Lampoon kind of stuff. Yeah, here's the two of them together. And you can tell they're having a blast. They're really having a blast. They really did get very close. In 1997, Robin Williams somehow gets a script in the mail from two kids up in Boston. Two kids. There's a guy named Ben Affleck and another kid named Matt Damon. They've got a script called Good Will Hunting, and it's about Will Hunting, who is this math phenom at a school in Boston known as Harvard. And the psychologist involved is Robin Williams playing this part. Skarsgård as another math whiz in this thing. And Matt Damon is the janitor of the school, but he's able to figure out math equations because he's a savant in an Einsteinian type way. And he's sought after by the NSA at one point in this movie, 9 Oscar nominations. And this is just my take, the best Robin Williams film of all time. It's not because of Robin Williams. He doesn't show up in the film until about 35 minutes into the movie. It's just a real good movie. And a great script. And you go, well, how did Matt Damon and Ben Affleck write such a great script? The answer is they didn't. There was a guy named William Goldman who was brought in privately by Harvey Weinstein and paid to rewrite their entire script. Now, William Goldman had written such scripts as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, and he was brought in as a gun for hire and paid to have his name removed from the script. Extra money by Goldman was signed a do not disclose agreement. He later disclosed many years later that he was the writer that, did a second draft. Let me put it that way. Goldman was a great writer. He has written books about how to write screenplays. One of the great teachers of screenwriting. If you want to study screenwriting, study William Goldman. Anyway, so Harvey wants these two kids to break, and he wants them to get an Oscar for best screenplay, which they do. And they bring in Robin Williams to play the psychologist here, and they have a wonderful chemistry together. And for reasons that are not so easily explained, the director is able to rein in Robin Williams and keep him focused on drama as opposed to spritzing and riffing. And when he does riff and spritz, it's in a small amount. And the thing grosses 225 million. And I think, as it says there, got 9 Oscar nominations, and he will win his first Oscar and his only Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and well deserved by Robin Williams. It is his finest performance, completely understated. But you don't want to be involved in anything after something like this happens. But you know, these investors come right. Yeah, there they are. There's Ben. You know who steals the movie, by the way, who gets some credit is Casey Affleck, as one of his boys hanging out, one of his Southie boys of this little clique that they have. Cole Hauser, who worked with Richard Linklater on a little film called Dazed and Confused, is also part of his crew. There's some violence in the movie that looks really great. I mean, theatrically great. And Damon is fantastic. He actually is. Tip of the hat. There's the crew. Cole Hauser on the left. That's Casey Affleck up in the left-hand corner. Ben, his brother, and Matt Damon on the lower there. A great little film. Holds up over time. It's a real film. A lot of these other films are unwatchable and do not hold up. They're just products of their time. This is not one of them. This is because it's directed by Gus Van Sant, who is a real director and knows how to edit, and knows how to use a camera, and he knows how to work with actors. I miss him so much. Yeah, we all do, Shelley. We really do. I mean, I will get to a certain part of the story. Thank you for that donation. I will get to a certain part of the story and tell you these are Mike. Thank you. We'll see where this goes. But the year after Good Will Hunting, like I said, he does Patch Adams. And this is another debacle. The critics are savage. I mean, there are critics like Roger Ebert who actually hate Robin's guts. It's getting so bad that he can't even open the papers. The critics are just ripping their hair out because of how sappy some of these films are. And I mean, look, he's got this woman, you know, working on the films, and, you know, she was the nanny, so I guess she's got special talents. But in 1998, he also does What Dreams May Come with Annabella Sciorra and Cuba Gooding Jr., and it's a visually stunning film and absolutely insane. Also that year, I just have to say, he gets addicted to video games. In 1998, he begins to play video games, and I mean play video games. I'm talking about, you know, Half-Life, first-person shooter. I don't know if any of these are out yet, but he begins to really gets obsessed because he has tried to not do so much cocaine, and he switches to video games. Just remember that. In 1999, he does Bicentennial Man, which may be prescient for right now because it's AI versus humans. That might hold up. I don't know. I have to take another look at Bicentennial Man. But in 2001, September 4th of 2001, his mother dies of heart failure. She's 78, and this spirals him out of control. And he starts to make these dark freaking films. I mean, these films are so dark. He's never done this before. He does 1 Hour Photo, Death to Smoochie, and Insomnia with Chris Nolan all the same year. One psycho character after another. And he goes, I think it's because of the death of his mother. But it's also, there's his mother right there. That's up in San Francisco, up in Tiburon. I'll just say this. He claims that between 1983 to 2003, because of the death of John Belushi, he quit cocaine and alcohol cold turkey, without any treatment, without any addiction services, without any 12-step program. Just keep that in mind. That's what they say. So we don't know. We have to take his word for it. But he does these 3 films, and they're so freaking dark that it doesn't even seem like Robin Williams in these films. And, I'm a big fan of Robin Williams. Don't get me wrong. And I love these films. I love, all of them. Death to Smoochie, not so much. But Insomnia is a remake. Death to Smoochie is Danny DeVito directing this, by the way, with Ed Norton. It is a wild film. It's about a children's TV host. That's him. And he gets fired. And then they bring in Ed Norton as Edward Norton as his replacement. And it's quite an interesting film. Let me just put it that way. It's a comedy. But he's on a film in 2003. Just want to get into this because in 2003, 1986, I just want to point this out, 1986 to 2002, there's 1 hour photo. He does no stand-up. Now, this is a guy in love with stand-up. He does no stand-up tours. He does no specials. The stuff that he did for HBO, I think the last one was A Night at the Met in 1986. 1983 does An Evening with Robin Williams, and in 78 he does Off the Wall. So this is somebody who is in love with stand-up. He doesn't do stand-up for 15, 16 years. I mean, keep that in mind. And this is his sober time, quote unquote. How he's staying sober, I do not know. But in 2002, he will do Live on Broadway. This is Live at the Met. It's a very choppy show. He's all over the map. This is just my take on it. I'm a bigger fan of his movies than I am of his stand-up. Let me just put it that way. But he does do this thing Live at the Met, and it's really the first time back from 1986. And he wants to do a tour, Robin Williams Live on Broadway. Yeah, that's the 2002 one. He wants to do a tour of these different, go on a national tour, a bigger tour. And this thing may or may not work out for him because in 2003, he is doing a film called The Big White. And The Big White, he's up in some town in Alaska somewhere where you could see the end of the earth. And he goes into a bar and orders Jack Daniels and begins drinking again. He'd given up the cocaine, as a lot of people do, but King Alcohol has another plan for many people who are addicts. And he goes into this bar and he's in the middle of nowhere. And The Big White movie is another crazy plot of just one of the Giovanni Ribisi's in it. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, and Holly Hunter. This is a plot where him and his wife find a dead body and take it around trying to get insurance money for the dead body, claiming it's his brother. So think about that plot for a while. But he relapses up there, and he relapses not for 1 month, but he relapses for 3 years. And between 2003 and 2006, he increasingly finds himself high as a kite and drunk in public places. And this is not good for somebody such a high profile person as Robin Williams. He goes to benefits, he goes to events where he's drunk in public, and the paparazzi begins to focus on this. And an intervention is done on him in 2006. Yeah, that's kind of an AA kind of quote. In 2006, he has an intervention where he goes to the Hazelden Center in Newburgh, Oregon. And it's a Hazelden satellite place where he is given, all the tools of recovery, including 12-step programs. And from there, he stays for 2 months, which is unusual. He then goes to a sober living. He then moves to LA, where he gets a sober companion. He gets in a furnished apartment. Let me see what else I can remember. He is in LA at that time. He doesn't go home to his wife and kids. Now, this is important because in 2008, Marsha will file for divorce. And 2006, he gets out and he's living in LA. Now, let me see if I could switch gears here, because this is where I meet Robin Williams. So Robin and I run into each other, and I had a project about the biopic about Lordbuckly, the actual comic, and I was trying to get this thing made with him, actually, not knowing it himself. He didn't know that, but I talked to Robin Williams, and I said, I'm trying to make this project about Lordbuckly, and Robin couldn't have been nicer. He said, so is he, and that he had tried to get it made as well. And the son of Lordbuckly, the comedian that I'm basing my name on to honor Lordbuckly, the son of Lordbuckly was cock blocking everybody from making this movie about his father, because he wanted to play his father in the movie, as opposed to someone like Robin Williams playing his father. And Robin and I talked about this frustration, and I had heard this, and Robin confirmed it to me when we were together. And he was frustrated about it. And we kind of, there's the original Lordbuckly. And that was a role that I felt, and Robin felt, that without me being involved, that we should join forces and try to get this picture made. And the point of the matter was, congratulations, Diffuse. Did not know that. So Robin and I, were frustrated because of the son. And we didn't know where to go with it, because the son was blocking the studios from doing anything about his father, Lordbuckly. I think he called himself Lordbuckly Jr., as a matter of fact, and would perform as his actual dad in these really unusually awkward one-man shows playing his dad. No studio was going to bankroll this unknown guy playing Lordbuckly, and here was Robin Williams willing to do it. I was like, it was very frustrating. I don't have to get into the details for you, but it was very frustrating not to be able to do it. And Robin was frustrated, and I was frustrated. But the reality of it is, it wasn't made. And Robin goes on this tour to do stand-up, this national tour. That's Robin Williams looking up to me at that point. Robin Williams goes on this national tour, and he gets as far as Miami in 2009. And he begins to have shortness of breath and coughing. He begins to cough on stage in 2009. And this is the Weapons of Self-Destruction tour, if I remember the obtuse name of this thing. And he's taken to a hospital in Miami and then flown to the Cleveland Clinic, where he has an aortic valve replacement. They put in a cow valve. They literally crack open his chest, take his heart out, put in a new valve. He had an irregular heartbeat on top of that. This is all damage from cocaine, folks. I mean, the same thing happened with George Carlin, not the same operation, but it's a lot of guys who had damaged their hearts because of the cocaine abuse. And I'm not a doctor, but I would assume this might be part of it. They put in this, I think it was on this tour. They put in this aortic valve replacement, which I think you can get at Jiffy Lube now, but this is 2009. And they offered him a pig valve, and they offered him the metallic valve. They offered him the bovine valve. And Anyway, he gets out and goes home, and he meets a woman who is a painter named Susan Schneider. Now, Susan Schneider has already been married. She has two children, and she marries him, and they kind of hook up in a 12-step program. And she's 44 years old, tall, beautiful, not really interested. This is still, I think, Marsha there. I don't know. This is her right here. Yeah, this is Susan. They claim to have met in an Apple store, but his son Zach says they met at a meeting, 12-step meeting. So you decide on your own. Not that it matters. But they do get married. She doesn't get involved in his career because she is a legitimate painter. So what does he do up there? He's involved in video games. He's involved in depression. He's involved in a lot of stuff. Gets into bicycling, heavy duty bicycling, becomes a friend of Lance Armstrong before he gets busted. He gets involved in playing all these, like I said, the Havoc and all these different video games. He goes on into chat rooms, making believe he's a little boy. I don't know what to make of it. You could decide if that's kosher or not. But in 2000, I want to say 2013, like 2 years later, I mean, he's fried. He's really burnt out. Christopher Reeve has died. He was supplying all the money for Christopher Reeve's recuperation. He put an elevator in his house so Christopher Reeve could come over and go up and down the elevator. He's paying for all his health things. He's involved in so many charities, Robin Williams. He gave so much money to so many charities that he begins to say that he's broke. And not that he's spending it on crazy stuff for himself, but he puts his ranch up for sale in Napa Valley. He takes one indie film after another. I mean, these are indie films. He's working for scale, $1,500 a week. Where this money has gone, the only thing I could think of is that it went to all these different charities that he gave money to. He goes overseas and he begins to perform for USO. He goes over like 6, 7 times to Afghanistan to perform for the troops. And nobody knows about this. It's not publicized. And he goes over there and he does these stand-up shows for the men that are overseas. And he does it, I want to say like 7 or 8 times. Becomes like the secretly like the Bob Hope of these Middle East wars. And he's kind of burnt out, and there he is with the troops. He starts to look, he gets more conservative. He's the original liberal, but he begins to make jokes that are denounced as being Islamophobic that are really not. But he's so considered a liberal that the leftist media here's Robin. This is in Afghanistan. Now, keep in mind, his father was a war hero. His father got blown up on the Ticonderoga. His father had shrapnel on his body. His father raised him, and he is his father's son. And at the end of the day, for him, it was about the troops. And he starts making jokes. And he made jokes about Bush, which is one thing. But he also made jokes against the Islamic terrorists. And they did not like this in certain areas of the country who were his liberal friends. Let me just leave it at that. But he is completely unselfish about going over there, flying in a C-140 transport plane, being brought in by the generals and then brought out by himself. Maybe a couple of other acts, but most of the time was just him, and playing for huge 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 troop audiences who loved him, as did everybody else. So he goes home, and in 2013, he decides to go back into sitcoms. And there's a sitcom being created by David E. Kelley. And David E. Kelley is one of the most famous, successful showrunners in Hollywood. And he's got a show called The Crazy Ones. And The Crazy Ones, I think it was CBS. The Crazy Ones involves Sarah Michelle Gellar, who plays his daughter. and Robin Williams will be the head of an ad agency, an eccentric, award-winning head of an ad agency that his daughter is now taking over. This is a poster for the crazy ones. Yeah, CBS. Yeah, this is 2013. Now, he is paid to do this. He's not doing this for the love of sitcoms, but he does like the premise of this twice divorced, rehabbed head of an ad agency comedy where his daughter is taking over the ad agency and they're butting heads. So Robin Williams will get $165,000 per episode. Now, this is a guy who's been making indie films for $1,500 a week, and he says, "I need the money. I can't figure it out. May never figure it out. I don't know if it's true or not." He did put it. He said the divorces were super expensive, so each divorce may have been $20 million by itself. He does leave an estate of $50 million, so go figure. I don't know how to figure it. It's a little high math for me, but he says that the divorces were expensive. That's the only thing I could think of. However, in 2013, they shooting an episode at Wolfgang Puck's in Beverly Hills, the restaurant, and Robin Williams insists on, and now, keep in mind, this is highly controversial, and a lot of spin was put on this to deny this ever happened. But when my sources tell me that is, Robin goes up to the bar and insists on having real liquor in the scene for the episode, and begins drinking in public at that bar, Wolfgang Puck's, on that day in 2013 for that episode. Now, what happens in 2014? He goes back to Hazleton. Now, you don't go to Hazleton for a tune-up, as his publicity machine said, and his wife at the time said. There had to be an event. It could be video game addiction, or it could be this incident that happened at Wolfgang Puck's. I don't know. But something sent him back to Hazleton in June of 2014. Now, the show is canceled in May of 2014, and within a few weeks, he's now in Center City, Minnesota, at the main Hazleton branch. Now, Richard Lewis told me, this is between Richard Lewis and a bunch of our friends, that he had relapsed, and that he had called Robin repeatedly to come back, and Robin was too ashamed to come back into the program, so to speak. And either Richard Lewis is making this up, or his wife claims that Robin had 8 years of sobriety when he self-deleted. You decide. All I know is that anytime I've ever read about some celebrity going to rehab for a tune-up, it's always been bullshit. Nobody goes to rehab for a quote-unquote tune-up, whatever fucking tune-up is. I don't know. There she is on the right. She had long-term sobriety herself. That's kind of what was going on there. But the report that I remember reading about was a person a girl who was in Hazleton at the time, told Robin not to leave, to stay there, because Robin said he had obligations and he had to leave. And she was saying, "Why don't you just stay?" And he didn't listen to her, and he left early. He was there for about, I want to say 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, in late June to early July. I don't know the exact dates, but again, I don't know if it was alcohol or video game addiction, but it may have been both. It really may have been both. Because the video game addiction, by the way, some of you may be poo-pooing this, but it's a real thing. And it's a real thing for adrenaline junkies and cokeheads and meth heads and people like who love that, staying up for days doing meth and doing coke and doing Adderall and doing Ritalin. I'm not saying he was doing those, but he clearly, by his own admission, claimed to be a video game addict and called it digital cocaine. That's in Robin's words. And he was there at the birth of the internet, the birth of video games, and he'd been doing this for a long time, maybe 15, 16 years. They're sleeping in separate beds. She claims because he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, which is probably true. I mean, Richard Lewis was diagnosed with Parkinson's as well. It's not a death sentence. There are many people who live with Parkinson's for many, many years. However, he may have been up all night playing video games. I don't know. That's kind of what he admitted to himself in many, many interviews. Now, he like I said, in 2014, he puts the Napa Valley Vineyard House on the market, and he comes back from Hazleton into his house up there, and goes to his mother's house, which is still around where his mother used to live. And he comes back and he's living in this house with Susan. And Susan goes to bed a little bit early, and when she wakes up, the door is locked, and she goes about her business, goes into town, and figures that he's sleeping or something. And the maid or the assistant looks through the window because the door is still locked, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning at this point, and she discovers what he had done to himself, which you're seeing right here. The top word there, the asphyxiation. Obviously, we don't have to go into the details of that, but pretty well planned. Nothing, no search on the internet for anything regarding this. There's no note as far as I have ever heard, and obviously suffering from various ailments, and had I don't know what the final straw was, but it seems like he was planning this for a while, and that was the end of his day right there on August 14th, August 11th, 2014. The coroner report will come out a couple of months later, and in there will be, that he was on antidepressants and L-Dopa for Parkinson's. Ironically, L-Dopa is what's given to Robert De Niro in the Awakenings movie to deal with his situation. It's kind of ironic. And also in the world's greatest dad in 2009, which was a Bobcat Goldthwait film, Robin deals with his son doing this in the movie. And he did a lot of research about it back then. He admitted in 2009. He writes a phony note in the movie. He rearranges his son's body in the movie. There's a lot of stuff in that movie that's parallel to what happened to him. I don't know what to make of it. But there was a lot of addiction issues in Robin's life. Yeah, there's a poster for that movie. This is the Bobcat. Bobcat was a good friend of his. Bobcat believes in the Lewy bodies explanation that his wife has adhered to. Now, Bruce Willis's wife has written a book recently about Bruce Willis's Lewy body dementia, and Bruce Willis has not self-deleted himself. So there is a way to live with this situation. In this case, Susan felt it was fatal. That's not exactly true. You can live with this for a long time, as you can with Parkinson's. It may have been too much to bear for Robin in terms of performance as a performance artist and everything else, which might have led to self-deletion, depression, and stuff like that. But nevertheless, there are people who don't believe it. And, there's people who believe that the medication that he was on had self-deletion tendencies too, which is also scientifically true. It's never going to be resolved. I mean, the point of the matter is this guy had an incredibly long, unique life that no other American artist has ever had. Literally hundreds. I mean, there's so many Robin Williams films, many that I have never even heard of, indie films that he got to. I mean, the performances that he did, are legendary in terms of the stand-up, in terms of the specials, and in terms of his, I think he was on Letterman like 50 times with David Letterman, who worshiped him. He was on obviously with Johnny Carson and many others. And we're never going to have the answers to this, but we do have a visual record, audio record, and digital record of Robin Williams' life. which I highly recommend. I highly recommend, watching Moscow on the Hudson, Good Will Hunting, Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poets Society, Awakenings is a watchable film. This, yeah, wow, there's like a healthy group of people there. Wow, look at Pryor. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's kind of sad. I mean, there was so much death around Robin Williams, of his icons, of Pryor, of Christopher Reeves and his father and his mother, and various people around him who succumbed, and Kinnison, others who were his proteges who didn't make it. This is him early on at Juilliard. Yeah. Anyway, the final week is what I was talking about when he was walking in a fog up in San Francisco near the Throckmorton. There's two little stories. He was near the Throckmorton Theater where he did stand up there, and Dana Carvey hears him calling him, and he goes up to Dana Carvey in this fog, like out of a movie, and he makes an amends to Dana Carvey for stealing his material. This is literally a week or so before his demise. And Dana Carvey says, "I don't know what you're talking about. It's all good, bro." And it seemed like he was making amends to various people before he left. And that was one of them. It's kind of interesting how many lives that this person touched. There's a film called House of D, which is directed by David Duchovny, which is really interesting. There's Dana Carvey. Yeah, I mean, Carvey did a lot of stand-up with him on stage up at this Throckmorton. And one of the most interesting new friends that he develops is a guy who's a retired stand-up comic up there who also lives nearby. And he's performing in his 80s, and there's small audiences, and nobody comes backstage to even acknowledge him. And the guy is kind of depressed over this. And one night he gets a knock on the door, and he opens the door, and it's Robin Williams. And the comic invites in Robin Williams, and he thanks him for coming in and acknowledging him. And he said, "I've been doing this for a number of months, and nobody's come backstage to even say anything after the show." And that was the legendary Mort Sahl. Someone I've done episodes about, someone I've interviewed, and one of the original stand-up comics of America. And him and Mort Sahl developed like a father-son relationship, which is absolutely fascinating. Mort Sahl, who is the godfather of stand-up comedy, along with Lenny Bruce, becomes like a father figure to Robin late in life, and they bond together. And it's kind of an interesting relationship. He kind of replaces his dad in a way. But I think I've given you about as much Robin Williams as I can for one. There's Mort. When he was on TV, later becomes a deputy sheriff for Jim Garrison and begins investigating the Kennedy assassination. But if you want to see my episode of Mort Sahl, you're going to have to go to the other channel to understand what Mort did. What do you think he learned at Juilliard that gave him that magic? He didn't learn anything at Juilliard. It was about being in multiple improv groups. He already had theatrical training, and they did give him Shakespearean training. So I would say the Shakespearean acting training, which he parodied, and even in the mimicry voice classes, he was way ahead of the teacher. She claimed that he was already an advanced student. He was only there a couple of years and left. But I would say the Shakespearean formal stuff allowed him to do parodies of Shakespeare. He will later do Hamlet, a legitimate Hamlet. Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Hope to see you in Dallas. The training that he got there, he got too big for the school and left. But he was not alone. Other people left Juilliard and had very successful careers. And the people who stayed, this is probably from Julius Caesar. He did a lot of sword fighting and things of that nature. He did mime, but not from Juilliard. I mean, he did mime to get money to eat because his parents would not support him at all. There's the mime of, yeah, yeah. You might want to like and subscribe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think he learned as much as he could. But his machine gun style, which I don't consider stand up, is a one man improvisational team, if that makes any sense. I mean, I was kicked out of the National Improvisation Theater too because I didn't want to play their game. I was just a wisecracking, funny Jew from Brooklyn. There is a way to do it, but you don't have to be funny to be an improv. Let me put it that way. And I think he took the improv skills and he cranked it up to 11 speed wise and became an entire 4-person improv unit or 3-person or whatever multi-person you want, and became his own improvisational team as a comedy style, if that makes any sense. Occasionally he would bring other people up on stage. He does it with Williams, with Jonathan he does it, and with Jonathan Winters rather. He does it with Billy Crystal on occasion. He's not adverse to doing it with others. But what I think he did, and to his credit, was become an entire committee or an improvisation theater by himself, talking to himself at rapid speed, playing schizophrenic characters, playing various voices, bouncing them off himself. He became too big, and they were not fast enough in these various improv groups that he was in, like the Off the Wall comedy group. Chevy Chase was in there with him in 1975 in West Hollywood, couldn't keep up with him. So I think he just incorporated it into himself. Easier said than done, but Billy Crystal could keep up with him. Billy Crystal could do it, but also Crystal had a similar background. Anyway, sorely missed. Plenty of footage out there. A guy who gave a lot of money to charity, helped a lot of people, was really down to earth when you spoke to him. This guy, thank you, Edward. Thank you so much. Robin Williams was the sweetest guy in show business I ever met, ever dealt with. I mean, Carlin was nice also. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of sweet guys in show business. Carlin, obviously, a little bit more caustic. But Robin was just a sweet, sweet guy with absolutely very minimal ego. As far as I could see. This is also from Father's Day, where they're comparing notes. Mike, thank you so much. Yeah, this is a big episode for me, and it's emotional because I miss the guy, and I wish I could have worked with him on a real project like the Lordbuckly movie, which is still unmade and still, is a movie that I'd like to get made at some point. But we'll see what happens. You never say never. Anyway, any questions, any comments? Now would be a good time before we get into some business here. But keep in mind, the video game addiction, some of the symptoms are sleeplessness, depression, brain fog, isolation. There's a lot of stuff. Don't poo-poo video game addiction, folks. Don't poo-poo it. It is real. I just want to leave that message with you as just from mental health point of view, because it can. I've dealt with kids, younger people with video game addiction in rehabs before. Okay, so what do we have? We have coffee. Oh, where's my coffee? Oh, here it is. Here it is, the tribal coffee. Don't forget this, folks. This is from the Western Highlands, from Kofi. Well, I guess they call coffee Kofi there. I don't really know, but they produce the source of the coffee beans from within the fertile volcanic soils. I mean, you get 10% off. What do you care? Try it for 10% off. If it doesn't work, you can send the bag back to the guy in Texas, and you can use a plunger on this. Whenever I see the word plunger, do you think of toilet plungers? I don't know any other way to say the word plunger without thinking about toilet plungers. What else would you say with a plunger? I mean, obviously the coffee thing, but espresso, cappuccino, okay, that's different. But simply choose the roast and grind suited. This is the one I've been using. It's the only one I think they have, and it comes in a 12-ounce bag with a secret seal back here that you would never see in a million years. It is like a little thing right there that you got to lift up, because I'm an idiot. I didn't see this. I was cutting the bag with a scissor. So you lift up this secret thing, and then it's got a hermetically sealed Ziploc thing right here, so it stays fresh. You don't even have to, I think I need more. You don't have to refrigerate it, but I recommend refrigerating coffee anyway all the time. It really is the way to go. And Tribal Coffee, if you try one of these, you get 10% off for reasons I still don't understand. But that's my loss and your gain. So I think you might want to try this once, and I think you will really enjoy it. You might enjoy the birdcage, but I don't know. Next week, I think we're going to do This Week in Show Business History, which I had a lot of fun with last week. And we're going to get into whatever week that is, which I believe is going up to November 1st. We're going to get into that week in show business history. A lot of crazy crap happened that week. I just want to tell you right now. The week afterwards, I think we're going to do John Belushi because of his connection to Robin Williams. And I knew Belushi's wife and a lot of people around John. And it makes sense. A lot of these things are being done by me because they're connected somehow, like Belushi connected to Robin Williams, and then the death of Belushi. Belushi obviously connected to Animal House and National Lampoon. So there's that connection. And there's a lot of stuff about Belushi that people don't know. But I don't have enough time to do it next week. So it'll be the week after. And this week we'll do This Week in Show Business History, which I think I kind of enjoy that. That was kind of a lot of fun doing that, you know. I don't know. If you want to subscribe now, everybody loved Belushi. That was another one. I mean, obviously he was more caustic than Robin Williams, but people did love Belushi. This might be a good time if you were out of the room early on. Radin is not going to make the list, but we have other comics who are a lot bigger than Gilda Radner who are going to make the list. Lily Tomlin's on the list. Elaine Boozler's on the list. Let me get the list. Hold on. Yeah, I got the list. This is a secret list, so I can't show it to you. But just from the women who are on the list, Nichols and May, Elaine May is on the list. Sandra Bernhard is on the list. The legendary Phyllis Diller is on the list. Joan Rivers, who I knew, is on the list. I mean, these are major players. I can't get into Radner. I mean, I love Radner, but she's just not in their league as a stand-up comic. But there are a number of women here that I think are going to be very interesting to the audience. So we will do that. Whoa. There's a lot of weird people on this list. Whoa. Anyway, we're going to get to them. It's going to take a while. So hopefully you can subscribe and hit the like button. I don't know what it is with YouTube. They seem to like that. Gene Wilder, I don't know. It's on the cusp. I mean, Wilder's kind of like an odd film actor type person. I'm trying to deal with comedy basically here. Not that I didn't like these people. It's just a certain thing that we're trying to do here right now. But you can subscribe. You can like the thing. If you have any questions or comments, please comment down below of what your favorite Robin Williams film was. I think that's a question that everybody can answer. Yeah, Boozler is a straight up #1 top comic, female comic in American history. Elaine Boozler deserves her own episode. I'm sorry for your loss, but she worked it and made it and busted her fat ass to get where she is today. She deserves it. Chris Elliott does not. Murphy, of course. Yes, Eddie Murphy will get his own episode, obviously. Okay. And I think that's about it, unless you guys have some kind of questions or some kind of ideas you can leave. You do love the Birdcage. Well, women do love the Birdcage. It is a remake. So that's kind of fun. Mary, welcome aboard. Everyone loves the Birdcage. Everyone. Oh, Robin Williams, Ernie Kovac. I don't know about that. But put in at nausea, Mark, just hit the like button. Just ask to hit the like before you start so we can chill on each other. You know what, Lucas? Go fuck yourself. All right? Go fuck yourself. The situation is, put in the comment section your your favorite Robin Williams film that you like, and what comics you want us to do episodes on. So those are the two questions, and we'll see how that comes out. So I'm going to get out of here now. Buy the coffee, get the biltong, and have a great week. Thank you.